Hadirin yang berbahagia, ini nampaknya nggak usah pakai ini saja. Tes. Tes.
Cek. Halo, 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 halo. Halo. Cek.
tangan yang meriah untuk
Cek.
SIPA dan
Cek.
isi Surakarta.
Masuk. Cek, cek. Cek, cek. Halo, halo. Cek, 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 cek. Cek, cek.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, and all everybody who has already come into the conference today. Selanjutnya, sebelum kita masuk kepada sesi keynote speakers dan waktu saya serahkan kepada moderator, izinkan kami untuk bisa mengambil foto bersama antara all the keynote speakers with the director of postgraduate ISI Surakarta and all the lecturers who already come. So please, all the keynote speakers come forward to the stage and take photo together with all the lecturer and the director of ISI, Pascasarjana ISI Surakarta. And also Bu Ira, so please come forward to take photo together with us. Prof. Ana, Prof. San, kami persilahkan juga untuk ikut foto bersama. Well, thank you. The next is photo together with all the participants, right? So I hope the documentation will take a photo from here. All the participants will sit over there, and we can take photo together from up down here. So please, all the participants, please stand up for a moment. Oke. Langsung tayang niku. Okay, thank you. All the participants, please be seated. Baik, Bapak hadirin yang kami hormati, acara selanjutnya adalah acara yang sudah tidak sabar kita tunggu karena selanjutnya waktu akan saya serahkan kepada moderator untuk memandu acara pada hari ini, yang mana paparan dan diskusi oleh keynote speaker akan dipandu langsung oleh Mrs. Anissa Putri Cahyani. Kepada beliau kami persilahkan.
Oke, bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Yang terhormat Profesor Dr. Sunarmi M. Hum, Direktur Pascasarjana Institut Seni Indonesia Surakarta. Tak lupa yang terhormat, yang kami hormati Dr. Anda Roro Ayu Irawati Kusumo Sri SBSN sebagai Direktur SIPA. Selamat datang Ibu. Juga keynote speakers for today conference. Welcome to Institut Seni Indonesia Surakarta. Also all the lecturers of Pascasarjana Institut Seni Indonesia Surakarta, and all the presenters, all the participants for this conference. Good morning. Thank you, Master of Ceremony, for the warm introduction. So my name is Anissa Putri Cahyani. I will be serving as your moderator today in International and Interdisciplinary Conference on Arts Creation and Studies, IICA CS 2024, held by Program Pascasarjana Institut Seni Indonesia Surakarta with the topic Cross-Culture Borders. Please give a round of applause for Pascasarjana Institut Seni Indonesia Surakarta. I am honored to be the moderator today, but before we get started, I will introduce you plenary speakers for today's conference. Telah hadir di tengah-tengah kita semua, the 5 plenary speakers. The first keynote speaker for this conference is Professor Carol Brown. She is a dancer, a choreographer, artistic researcher. Her current position is Professor and Head of Dance Faculty of Fine Arts and Music, University of Melbourne. She is also a choreographer and director of Carol Brown Dances and Collaborations. For further information about Carol Brown Dances, you can check www.carolbrowndances.com. And her artistic expertise is the core areas of the dance practice research or site-responsive choreography and performance, dance and architecture, technologies of performance and pedagogy, and female body. Professor Brown pursued and achieved her PhD in dance studies, also MA in dance studies from Surrey University, UK, and had her BA on first class history, the University of Otago, New Zealand. Carol Brown's career reflects a deep engagement with dance and performance through research, choreography, and education marked by numerous awards and significant contributions to both academic and artistic communities. It's a long list of her works, including artistic research and collaborations and choreographies. The latest was the Breathe Trio, a collaboration with Brown Brain Kid through her Breath exhibition in Melbourne. Also, there are a long list of other activities such like podcasts, plenary speakers, and academic writers by Professor Brown. And now, please welcome to the stage Professor Carol Brown. Please give a warm welcome. The second plenary speaker for today is Professor Renee T.A. Lisloff. She is a Professor Emeritus of Ethnomusicology, Department of Music, Asian Studies, Southeast Asian Studies in University of California, Riverside. Her educational history, she earned her PhD in musicology, ethnomusicology from University of Michigan, also MA in music ethnomusicology from University of Hawaii, and BA in music theory history from University of Wisconsin, Madison, Wisconsin. There are a lot of awards and fellowships that he earned. In 2003, one of them is Fulbright Senior Scholar Program, residency at the Indonesian Institute of the Arts in Yogyakarta, and field research. Also, some publications to mention. One of them is Ethnomusicology, International Encyclopedia of Anthropology, London and New York publication. Prof. Rene has a long list of publication and research related to ethnomusicology since 1990s, and some of them related to Indonesian music, dance, and wayang. Okay, please welcome Professor Rene Lislov. The third plenary speaker for today's conference is Dr. Chung Ji Pyo. Dr. Chung Ji Pyo is an ethnomusicologist, daegum player, and performance manager. He was active as a daegum player in Korea, and after moving to Indonesia, he engaged in research on Indonesian music culture, organized collaborative music performance between Korea and Indonesia, and he received his PhD in Media and Cultural Studies from Gajah Mada University. Based on this experience, he's currently researching on contemporary music cultures of Indonesia from the perspectives of art diplomacy and media and cultural studies. He's also a lecturer in the ethnomusicology program at Institut Seni Indonesia Surakarta and the vice president in Center of Asian Music Studies at Institut Seni Indonesia Surakarta. His interest in ethnomusicology, also intercultural performing arts, art diplomacy, cultural studies in art, also Indonesian culture and arts, seen from the contributions that he made through publications and talks that he made too. Now, please welcome Dr. Chung Ji Pyo. And the plenary is Ms. Kishi Misaki. She's from Japan. She's pursuing her PhD in Anthropological Studies, Department of Comparative Studies, School of Cultural and Social Studies, the Graduate University for Advanced Studies, Sokendai, from April 2022 until present, still doing, taking the specialization in ethnomusicology, especially female dalang and musical aspects of wayang kulit. She earned her MA in musicology from Department of Musicology, Tokyo University of the Arts. And her thesis is Influences of University Education on Contemporary Javanese Wayang Kulit Performance, a case study of ISI Surakarta and ASCII. Not forget to mention that Ms. Kishi Misaki is also a Dharma Siswa student under the scholarship program in 2018-2019 at Indonesia, Surakarta. Also, she has a BA in musicology, also long list of performance activities, academic activities, and achievement mostly related to the music, and several of them are in Indonesia. Please welcome Ms. Kishi Misaki. The last plenary speakers is Dr. or Bu Harmilianti Solistiani, PhD. She is my colleague. And Bu Harmilianti has been a lecturer in the Interior Design Department at Institut Seni Indonesia Surakarta. And she studied architecture. She earned her MSc at Gajah Mada University in 2010 and 11 Maret University for her BA in 2000. Her research activities focus on colonial architecture and railway station in particular and bridge the gap between the history of architecture and heritage. Bu Harmilianti spotlight on architecture to support conservation and cultural heritage efforts so that it can contribute to the Sustainable Development Goals, especially SDG 11, Sustainable Cities and Communities, and SDG 17, Partnerships for the Goals. Bu Harmilianti obtained her PhD from Vrije Universiteit Amsterdam in March 2022. Currently, she carries out the role as the head of the EC Surakarta E-Heritage Study Center. Bu Harmilianti also wrote some articles and books. The latest one of her articles is the evolution of railway station architecture in Java. Also, some books related to interior design. So now please welcome Bu Harmilianti Sulistiani, PhD. Oh yeah, she'll be here soon. All right. Now, each of the plenary speakers will have 15 minutes of speech, Ibu. And after all the presenters, all the speakers had their speech, we will have 15 minutes of question and answer. And for the first plenary speaker, that is Professor Carol. 15 to 20. I think they have the chance. Yeah. Okay. Our first speaker will be speaking about dancing futures. Yeah. And she will be sharing her experience, her projects, and it would be so insightful. Okay. And please welcome, silakan Ibu, for the first plenary speakers.
Selamat pagi. Terima kasih for the beautiful warm welcome and introduction. I won't say too much about myself because you did a beautiful job with my biography. Thank you. I'm going to talk today a little bit about dance education and research from the standpoint of what we call the epistemic value of the arts as a practice of research. I'm a practitioner, I'm also a theorist of dance, and those two roles used to be quite separate. We used to have dance studies as a field which was involved in the history, the analysis, the readings of dance, and we had practitioners as a separate field, people involved in conservatoire education and practice. It wasn't until the mid-90s that we started to look at what is the embodied tacit knowledge of the dancer, and how can that be articulated through an ontology, a framework through which how dancers come to know can be shared and disseminated. Here we go. We're going to go to the next slide, so just to cue the next slide. Oh, you're doing my CV, I see. There's a PowerPoint, I think. Yeah, there are some slides coming. So at the University of Melbourne, we are in the Victoria College of Arts, and we are 9 different disciplines: theatre, animation, creative writing, production, music theatre, and other disciplines. And we exist in the arts precinct of Melbourne, so we have a very close relationship between the arts industry and the education tertiary learning environment.
Okay,
I'll keep talking.
1 minute, sorry. Mohon maaf panitia, ini slide yang ditayangkan, slide yang CV-nya Bu Carol. Ini mohon untuk menayangkan slide yang materi. Begitu nggih? Terima kasih.
So what we're trying to do is bring together intensive studio-based learning in dance and music and theatre, the performing arts, together with the critical thinking about those practices. What are the issues, the challenges, the possibilities of bringing theory and practice together through an arts program that really looks at the philosophical heritages at where we are in the practice, but also where we are going. What is the future of dance studies? And I just want to address that a little bit through some of the core areas that the University of Melbourne is focusing on. Globalization, or global, how we are connected globally, the sense of place and belonging, how the place we learn informs what we learn, and our accountability and responsibility as learners and teachers. The idea of education, putting students at the heart of what we do, of all of the research we're doing, looking at how does that apply to our emerging generation of artists. And the last one is community, really important. And in a sense, that's what's brought me here, a sense of community and engaging in intercultural exchange. I've come here with 9 of our dance students from the BFA dance and the MA dance to participate in a 10-day workshop with Surakarta dance students and dancers from Iko Suprianto's dance company. We've just completed yesterday 10 days of workshops, masterclasses, cultural exchange, and research together. How can we find a hybrid language between some of the beautiful dance practices that we experience, the Javanese dance here, and our students were teaching at the same time, the range of practices, there we go, first slide, the range of practices that we engage in at the University of Melbourne in the dance program. Okay, if we just go to the next slide, thank you. So just the next 2 slides just talk a little to my own practice in interactive choreography. So I'm really curious about how, as a head of a program and a practitioner myself, that choreographic thinking informs the way I design our curriculum and the kinds of research that we're doing in our dance program. And I just want to acknowledge a collaborator in the room, Monica Lim. Do you like to just raise your hand? Who's one of my artistic collaborators, just completing her doctorate at the University of Melbourne. And thank you for coming, Monica. So one of the things that we're spending a lot of our attention on in the university is the technologizing of the performing arts. What is going on in the field in terms of the augmentation of the body through technology. On Saturday, Monica and I will be performing an art jog, a work that uses wearable sensors, that she's designed a sound world that myself and Emma Redding, the director of VCA, will be interacting with through a performance improvisation. The next slide, please. The other area that I'm very focused in my own research is architecture and urban space. And how do we choreograph the city? How do we, as moving artists, with particular intelligence about the organization of patterns of movement, how do we extend that knowledge into civic architecture, public space, interaction with environments? The photograph on the left is from the Prague Quadrennial of Kelly Nash. It's actually when I toured there with the New Zealand dancers, and she is performing a work called Flood. And on the right is a dancer called Jim Weaver, performing in an underground, a subway in Auckland City in New Zealand. So how do we take dance outside from its traditional spaces of performance into the public environment? Next slide, please. So, and this brings me to the sort of core principle of our teaching and research at the University of Melbourne, and a sense of purpose. What is it that drives us, that underpins what we do? And that is the benefiting society through a transformative impact of education and research. What does transformation mean? It's about change, it's about innovation, it's about discovery, but it's also about valuing the past and looking to our heritages and what we know and what we don't know. What do we hold on to from the past? What do we need to let go of? So we're preparing our students for a future which is pretty unknown, and if we go to the next slide, is also a time of enormous upheaval, challenges, and the next slide, thanks. And what has been termed polycrises, the idea of we're experiencing intersecting challenges of the forces of climate change, the breakdown of the climate, rising sea levels. We're experiencing huge amounts of warfare at the moment, what's going on in the Ukraine, in Israel and Gaza, what's happening in Sudan. We're experiencing the rise of populist views around the world, which carry a racism and a kind of anti-immigration populism. And we're also experiencing a precarity in people's careers. They're not sure what's going to happen with the advances of AI. This is a photograph from our Welcome to Country, which is led by the Bunwarang peoples, the indigenous peoples of the land of our campus on the South Bank. And you can see the beautiful possum skin cloaks, which are worn by indigenous elders of the Bunurong and Bunwarang peoples. If we go to the next. So in this time of polycrises, these goals, if you like, the things that we are really harnessing, if you like, our research strategies around are these 4 pillars. And they're very simple and straightforward. I described them before, but place, I think, is really important to draw attention to, because it's how do we value the place we are? Not drawing on so much the history of colonial Australia with its emphasis on a relationship with Britain and imperial British history, but how do we redraw our networks in Asia-Pacific region, our neighbourliness here between Indonesia and Australia, our sense of our local neighbours, not jumping across to Europe all the time. So one of the things that we have in our program is called this Travelling Studio, which is really aimed at bringing our students into dialogues with students around the world, other dancers, to enhance their awareness and their understanding. And it's beautiful and powerful bringing these 9 students here and their experience of being in Indonesian culture. I'm just going to read a statement from yesterday. We had a workshop by Jackie Shepherd, who is one of our Indigenous dancers. So 3 of our group are First Nations Australian artists, and I'm with my colleague Rhiannon Port, who is a First Nations artist as well. And I just asked Jackie Gray, who is one of our artists, to say something about the experience yesterday, what it meant to them as a First Nations Australian artist to visit Indonesia, Solo, Surakarta, and to EC students. And I'm just going to read, they just sent this to me this morning. So this is from Jackie Shepherd, who's a dancer, embodied storyteller, and performance artist of the Tagalaka clan group, Queensland. And Jackie is a first-year Masters of Dance student with us. And I quote, "Yesterday, I facilitated a specialised workshop which entailed an amalgamation of First Nations meditative practice called Deep Listening, which evolved into a danced embodiment of this practice. After guiding the students to create a mind, body, and place connection, I led them through a series of choreographic and dramaturgical explorations using my own personalised First Nations methodologies and perspectives of creative and choreographic inquiry. The students were guided to identify with how story is reflected through nature and to flesh out layers of story through connection to land. The opportunity to lead this workshop has meant so much to me. I feel a deep sense of pride and joy to impart aspects of my culture to the EC Surakarta University and VCA students in ways that are both meaningful, educational, and practical to their artistic practice and transposed to the SEPA Festival, which they're performing at tonight and tomorrow night. This is an experience I will carry with me, and I'm grateful to the faculty for platforming this opportunity and very grateful to EC Surakarta for opening up space for First Nations Australian culture and spirit to be shared." So I'm sorry Jackie couldn't be here to say that himself. They're actually rehearsing this morning for the performance, but hopefully next time it will be Jackie standing here delivering this, not me. So Polycrisis, Making Dance for a Changing World. If we go to the next slide, how much more time have I got? Just another 3 minutes. Okay, I'm just going to wrap up. So I hope I've kind of given some insight into the weave between what we call the teaching and research nexus. How does teaching get informed by research? How does what we're doing as researchers be informed by our students? And it's this feedback, feed-forward connection that's really important to us. The next slide, please. And it could never be more important, I think, at the moment, given experiences that Australia has recently had, including through the referendum last year, which did not pass, to give First Nations people a voice in Parliament. So there's a very strong emphasis. Our faculty was actually, and our university was the first Vice-Chancellor to come out and speak in favour of the referendum for First Nations people. So a very big part of our research practice at the moment is about place-based teaching and learning and place-based research that really addresses a sense of belonging for all Australians and all of our international students as well. I love this quote. I might just finish with this quote as I'm out of time. What good are the arts? And this is Ursula Le Guin, a wonderful writer of science fiction and storyteller. The most powerful tool we have to build a future worthy of our children is our imaginations. I'll finish there. Thank you so much.
Terima kasih, Professor Carol Brown, and her insightful presentation about dancing futures, how community can do more for the generation through dancing. Now moving along to the next plenary speaker, we have Professor Renee Lisloff. And no? Yeah. Yeah, it's you. He will be speaking about music and the post-human. It's about technology, agency, and subjectivity. So, time is yours, Pak Rene. Mohon slide-nya.
Keynote. Halo. I'm going to talk about technology. And one thing about technology is you can't completely rely on it. When I was a young man, I was applying for a job at the University of Chicago, and they had me come and give an interview. And during my interview, I wanted to play 3 examples. And when I wanted to start my first example, the sound system broke down. And then they spent, it was a 45-minute presentation, and they spent at least a half hour trying to fix their sound system. Now you probably, if you know my curriculum vitae, I did not get that job. I blame the technology. Okay, so anyway, my talk is going to be about 20 minutes. And if you want to doze off or sleep, that's okay. Because I'm going to talk about theory. Because this is something I've been exploring for a number of years. And if any of you know my past work, that part of it was in Indonesia, research in Indonesia and data Banyumas and all that. But a part of my research has been on technoculture, technology and society, technology and culture, and specifically music. Now I'm exploring that a little bit further in this work. So, and it's going to take 20 minutes. So I hope you'll bear with me. And the title is called Music in the Post-Human, technology, agency, and subjectivity. And I'm going to explain the batasan, humanity and technology. Batasan, is there a limit or not? Okay, so I'm going to do this. I hope you'll bear with me. Okay, can you go on to slide? Musicologist and cultural anthropologist, I pondered several questions regarding technology and its relationship to or with humans. And so I began to ask myself questions about this. What are the limits between human subjects and the technological devices they use every day? Devices like this and this. We use them every day, but what is our relationship between us and those devices? We don't just use them, and that's sort of what I want to get at. How do technological objects, how are they different than natural objects like stones and trees and clouds and all those other kind of things that are in our world, everyday world? But technology is different. And that's something really important that I want to explore. And why is it that technologies can radically change a society? They can change us in really profound ways, but yet the technology itself remains unchanged by society, by culture. And an example of that is our cell phones. The cell phone in Indonesia is hardly different than the cell phone in America or in Australia. It's hardly different. They're all the same thing. They don't change. Same thing with laptops, any other technologies, automobiles. They don't change when they cross cultural boundaries. They don't change. But they change us, and that's the part I want to explore. So, what I want to talk about, I began to realize, like other scholars, that it's necessary to move beyond looking at technology simply as an extension or as an instrument of human thought or just an extension of human agency. Technology is something more. And new technologies now seem, especially today, these new technologies colonize our thinking. They colonize our thinking. And by that I mean they provide us with new metaphors, new ways of experiencing the world, new forms of empowerment, new means for isolating and alienating ourselves, and so on. But haven't earlier technologies done the same thing? Think of the printing press, think of writing. That's a technology. That's also changed us, hasn't it? What would we be like if we haven't invented technologies like the printing press? What would our world be like? It's changed us, and we don't think about that enough, I think. Why is it that only recently we think differently about technology? Why is it that, why is it that, why is it, am I lost? Oh, why is it that only now we no longer see technology as a tool or as an extension of our capabilities, but something more? Indeed, media theorists, and I want to show slide 3, please, are saying that technologies can no longer be adequately thought through the use of extension, but must be understood as profoundly implicated in our being. Technologies are us, is what they're saying. Now, in an earlier study, and that's my book that I edited on music and technoculture, I argued that traditional Western music, for example, and I would say this holds for traditional Indonesian or Javanese music, let's say, is that it valorizes virtuosity. And that I mean we celebrate virtuosity. It views music making in terms of the human body. And even as musical creativity is understood to be located in the mind. The mind is creativity, the body is execution. That's how we see it. That tends to be this divide. Creativity of the mind, execution, virtuosity, the body. They are likened, these musicians, these highly capable musicians are likened to athletes. They are evaluated according to their relationship to their instrument and their mastery and control over it. Their ability to make it do extraordinary things. That's how we look at it, don't we? We think of musicians they're masters of their instruments. Think of your favorite drummer in Kravitan. Think of your pangander. We look at them as they're the geniuses. We don't think about the instrument, except that it's a tool. But we look at the performer. Now, following this logic, creativity therefore occurs in the mind is expressed through bodily action. In other words, we are entirely focused on the human musician and rarely, if ever, consider that the musical instrument itself makes the musician carry out certain action. The instrument makes the musician do things. This is important that we sort of think about this a little differently. The instrument demands it. And I sort of came across that once I was studying drumming in Banyumas. And my teacher, Rasito Purwo Pangrawit, who used to teach here in Isi Solo, he taught me to make the instrument speak. He said, if your hands are not correct, the instrument will not speak. The instrument is asking for me to make it speak. So I want to return to this in a minute, but I want to go a little bit further about it. Now, musical performance has always been involved with technology. The piano, instruments of Africa, instruments of India, the sarod, the sitar, instruments of the Javanese gamelan. These are highly sophisticated technological devices. There's no doubt about it. There are aspects of the Javanese gamelan that American acousticians did not fully understand until the 1960s, that Javanese empu fully understood when they were making such instruments. And you can ask me about that some other time, but there are physical aspects of the gamelan that are only recently understood by physicists. So anyway, these are sophisticated technological devices. So let's take it further now with more recent kinds of devices. So, for example, with we all know that changes in audio technologies have altered the relationship between musicians and the sounds they produce. And this is what electronic music is all about. And it changed the relationship between musical performers and their audiences. And I don't know if any of you know the history of rock and roll and popular music. When Bob Dylan began to use amplification, his audience at first protested. They were angry. They booed him off stage. And then he later they got used to it. Frank Sinatra got his audience all in an uproar when he whispered into a microphone, which he couldn't have done before amplification. How do you sound intimate with your audience when you sing if you don't have amplification? You have to shout at them. Yeah. But with a microphone, you can whisper to them. You can whisper. These are technologies that change the relationship between performer and audience, sound and listener, musician, and musical instrument. Excuse me. So with digital technologies, this change has even become more radical. The relationship between humans and machines is now something entirely different. It's no longer causative. Causative, what I mean by causative, the musician strikes something, there's an audio response. You play the gendare, you strike a key, wilahan, and it makes a sound. That's cause, effect. Piano, you play a key in the piano, it makes a hammer, strike a string, cause and effect. But once you start playing with digital technology, with computers, that relationship is different. It can be still cause and effect, but not always, not entirely. The human begins to have a different role in all that. So the relationship now, you can say it's not simply causative, it's interactive. Playing synthesized sounds and executing audio samples is only a small part of computer-based music performance. Audio software programs also do things themselves. And the organizing causative human element is often far removed or rendered invisible. They simply they process sound input and add effects. They sample sounds on the fly, and they produce random or patterned or sequenced audio events, as well as respond in complex logical or illogical ways to live audio input. This is the nature of electronic music, especially computerized electronic music. So the computers are effectively active thinking participants in musical performance. Electronic music, computer-based electronic music, has other subjectivities. That's what I'm going to try to argue today. And can you show the next slide, please? Next slide, number 4. Simon Emerson, he writes a lot about electronic music. He says, what then emerges is the machine not only as a partner, but as an improviser of unexpected and unimagined materials. So the machine, meaning the computer here, is doing things. It's an active participant. So okay, so I got to move on here. I'm going to run out of time. I'm sure our moderator is going to be annoyed with me. So I don't want to go into the technical details of electronic music. I want to go look at big picture kind of issues. So the point I want to make here is that human musicians are interacting with computers just as they would interact with other musicians. It's not just cause-effect. It's this interrelationship, the interaction between these two sides. In a musical ensemble made up of thinking biological beings and sophisticated thinking, and I'm going to use quotation mark, thinking software programs or current AI algorithms, where are the human subjects located? How do we understand a music collective made up of both human subjectivities and non-human volitional processes? I see the concept collective in this as developed by a French anthropologist, Bruno Latour. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. He's not widely known outside of Europe, not even in America, but he wrote some really interesting stuff. And he and a phenomenologist named Don Ida have written about this kind of phenomena, this aspect of machines and human subjectivity. And can you show the next slide here? Slide number 4. Slide number 4. Yeah. Is that correct? Let's see. I think it, oh yeah. Yeah, okay, so the relationship of humans and non-humans, I think there, I think that's it. Before this. Let's see. Okay, so I have to go on here. They describe the social unit in which the relations of humans and non-humans are so intimate, the transactions so many, the mediation so convoluted, that there is no plausible sense in which artifact, corporate body, and subject can be distinguished. You can't distinguish these. Being human for both Ida and Latour can no longer be defined simply in terms of modern humanism. That is, a humanism that is based on individualism, secularism, reason, free will, ethics, and rational morality, all located in the mind of the human. The human no longer is the center of it all. It has been displaced. Now, this view separates modern humans from their non-human world, and Bruno Latour calls this the first great divide. I think that's up on the top, yeah? Or on the bottom? Oh, that'll come anyway. And then humans from pre-modern counterparts, and he calls that the second great divide. And here Latour argues for the reconsolidation of nature and culture, as well as humans and non-humans. He's saying there's these great divides. We have been separated from this world around us, and that's partially because of these overarching concepts like humanism. He's saying, let's sort of break out of that. Now, phenomenologist Don Ida articulates the consolidation in terms of humans and technologies. He also sort of explores this, and he says the technologies are not neutral, nor are they separable from the human. In the most crude and widely known terms, I'm sure you may have heard this, is this American slogan. Have you heard this? Guns don't kill people, people kill people. Have you ever heard that slogan? No? Because whenever in America we try to introduce gun control, the conservative response is to say, well, guns aren't the problem. It's the humans. Have you heard that argument? In Indonesia, it's not an issue, but it's an issue in America. I don't think it's an issue in Australia, is it? In America, it is. Guns are killing Americans, but people say in America, it's not the guns, it's the humans. Now, Don Ida looks at this. He's saying, and can you show slide 4 now? He's saying that the gun by itself does nothing. But in a relativistic account where the primitive unit is the human-technology relation, it becomes immediately obvious that the relation of human-gun, a human with a gun, is another object to another object, or human, is very different from the human without a gun. The human-gun relation transforms the situation from any similar situation of a human without a gun. Now, I don't want to go on talking about guns here because we're talking about art and music. But this is significant because we're talking about a technology and a human, what that relationship is. So the human, he says, the gun provides the human with machinic agency and produces results that neither alone can enact and does so in real time. Similarly, a flute or piano or any musical instrument provides musician with this kind of machinic agency. It changes the musician. You can't have a pianist without a piano. You can't have a pengendar without a gendar. You can't have a pengendang without a kendang. the instrument changes the person. So my point here is that new technologies are not socially inert or innocent. They have agency, and they bring about social consequences. That's my point. And I'm running low on time, but I'll just give me just a couple of minutes more. Now, Latour talks about this in a book on it's called To Action, a book on action network theory. So can you show the slide 7? He talks about these uncertainties, and he talks about our relationship with the world of objects. He says the main reason why objects, okay, that's it, yeah, that objects have no chance to play any role in traditional society was not due to the definition of the social used by sociologists, but also to the very definition of actor and agencies most often chosen. If action is limited to what intentional, meaningful humans do, it is hard to see how a hammer, a basket, a door closer, a cat, a rug, a mug, a list, or a tag could act. He's saying they might exist in the domain of material or causal relations, but not in a reflexive, symbolic domain of social relations. By contrast, by using this action network theory to start from the controversies about actor and agencies, then anything can modify a state of affairs by making a difference is an actor. So by Bruno Latour, the gun by definition in actor network theory is an actor. Anything from nature to humans to technology, even ideas and abstract processes exist in our social world as interactive and constantly changing our networks of relationships. Think of memes, malware, fake news, online bots, AI creativity. All these things that are not human are affecting us socially. They have this huge impact on us. So this is what is sort of at the core of what I want to get at. So how much time do I have? Am I out of time? Okay, give me 1 minute. So I can't get into talking about the human body and its relationship with all this. So maybe just end up with the post-human. Unlike most previous technologies, computers and related devices are the nexus of regimes of technology, of digital and digitized technologies, ranging from text, that is text editing, word processing, image, photo capturing, editing, reproduction, communications, data signals, reception, transmission, audio and video recording and playback, and so on and so forth. And these technologies use various conventional technologies concurrently in interactive ways. We might say that technologies speak to one another. Technologies speak to one another. Many computers, including laptops, tablets, even smartphones, deploy different software programs that interact with each other. For example, your calendar may make your alarm set off to remind you that there is a conference here today, things like that. These various kind of technologies within a larger technological device interact with each other. So in music, it's very similar. Plugins, they're called, and other software are programmed to respond to outside stimuli such as audio, live audio, or MIDI input, and all these sort of behave in a seemingly random fashion, or even to make choices depending on events that occur at any given moment. So when digital musicians perform, they use software plugins, and they interact with the computer. They interact interactively with computers. The computer in digital electronic music is no longer just a tool. It is one of many subjectivities that are involved in music performance. So I'll have to end there. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you. Very interesting perspective related to music and the post-human, also the guns theory and everything, the technology that do something in this society. Thank you, Prof. Lislov. Di tengah-tengah kita sudah hadir juga pembicara kelima, Ibu Harmilianti Sulistiani, PhD. Monggo silakan bergabung, Bu. Ya, please give applause for Bu Harmilianti Sulistiani. Now moving along to the third plenary speaker, Dr. Chung Ji-pyo. So from the Professor Lislov's presentation, music and the post-human, we move to K-pop. K-pop from Korea to Indonesia, representation and simulacra. That's what Dr. Chung Ji-pyo will be speaking today. Time is yours.
안녕하세요. So, very nice meeting you guys in this morning. And Bajul asked me to present about how K-pop has been developed in Korea until Indonesia. So I really tried to make this presentation hard for several nights, you know. Yeah, worked hard anyway. So I really want to give you the concept how really now our imagination of K-pop is like 5 or 6 boy and girls. They make a group, so boy band, you know, that kind of things in Indonesia. However, there are lots of other genres in K-pop. So, but I'm curious why there is that kind of imagination, some stereotype K-pop images like dance, rap, and some melodical, you know, lots of melody and dance. Indonesian people say joget-jogetan and you know, something like that. And when I listen, it sounds pretty negative, like Koreaan. Ya, seperti itu. So, saya campur bahasa Indonesia, bahasa Inggris mungkin. Next. So, this image, the girls with hijab, they have a gaya, the K-pop style. This is a kind of a stereotype of K-pop things in Indonesia. Since I was in Indonesia, since 2011, and always I got lots of experiences, and I also observe how the transformation or development of K-pop in Indonesia. And 2011 was like kind of still beginning, and lots of people were interested with me also. But there is this kind of stereotype is like very cultural and in our life experience. And like, for example, in West Sumatra, I visited a traditional market. And one high school student, female student, asked me, "Are you from Korea?" And I say, "Yes." "Oh, but your face is different." "What do you mean? What do you mean? My face? What's wrong with my face?" And, "Yeah, different with the Super Junior or something like that." Okay, so you think I'm a Korean, but my face is different with the Korean because you compare with my face with the Super Junior. Then I asked back, "Why your face is different with Ayu Ting Ting?" So This is actually, it's funny, but it is a pretty quite interesting issue because they have some kind of a stereotype. They have some specific imagination of Koreans. So I really wonder why, how? Because their experience and my experience are different, even though we talk about the K-pop. So it is a problem of a representation. So Stuart Hall said, it is the production. Oh, next slide. The production of the meaning of the concept in our mind through language. It is a discursive imagination. So I will introduce about the history of K-pop, how it has been developed in the paradigm. And Simulacra it refers to an artifact that makes a non-existent object appear to exist. Image in social media, negative images are real or something. So it is connected with hyper-reality. So with my experience and this kind of some specific image of K-pop, so that's why I want to, this is a key concept in this presentation, the representation and simulacra, hyper-reality. Next. So the purpose of the presentation today is the history of K-pop's evolution and examine how its image was constructed and subsequently introduced from Korea to Indonesia. Next. So before, a long time ago, Korean, popular music out of the palace, or like we call minyo, folk song, which means folk song or pansori. 아리아리랑 스리스리랑 아라리가 나네 아리랑 아라리가 났네 문경 세제는 웬곡인가 something like that. It's absolutely different with K-pop, right? Yeah, before colonialism or before the Western influence, something like that. But there are huge interaction with China and Japan. Next. So the era, finally, the European visited Korea, and the opening at that time there was no Korea but Joseon Dynasty, and the opening of the Joseon Dynasty for the Western countries is in 1876, and followed by the establishment of relations with the United States in 1882, and the United Kingdom next year. And at the time, Western music and instruments were introduced in Joseon throughout church, school, and palace, royal court also, military. And 1901, Franz Eckert, is it okay? Is my pronunciation? Franz Eckert, yeah, taught music to the Joseon military. Yeah, that is the guy. And you can see some aerophones, the military band, they are holding the Western instruments. Even though there is a traditional military band since before, so there is just some huge transformation of paradigm at the time. Okay, next. And then Japanese colonial between 1910 and 1945. The Japanese, next slide. Yeah, thank you. So there is a Japanese colonial government, they made some kind of record censorship. So if they want to publish some music, they have to pass this kind of a censorship. And actually this kind of tradition had been handed down until 90s. And 1930s, there is some kind of a new genre. We call it trot. It has been developed by Japanese enka also. So if you listen, enka and throat, very similar, very, very similar. And at that time, the minyo, the folk song, has been developed in some comedy genre. We call it manyo or shinminyo, new minyo. So it is more popular musical language than traditional that I sang. And we know arirang, right? Arirang, arirang, arariyo. What I sang before, the first, it was Jindo Arirang. We don't know who is composer and since when it people sang it. But this popular Arirang, 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 it has been composed in 1926. It is kind of original soundtrack, OST, of a movie Arirang. So the background music, the instruments are all like jazz instruments. It's not they didn't compose with Korean instrument things. So it is also kind of a new paradigm. And this song Arirang has been a kind of a symbol of a Korean traditional music. However, it also has been composed during the colonial time. Next, that's the photo during the musicians during the colonial time. Lots of female musicians at the time. This is also very interesting. Another topic. Next, that's the film. Okay. After that, independent Korean War. Kim Jong-un. As part of the Cold War, the Korean War broke out in 1950. And at the time, the popular music was based on propaganda, nationalism. So Korea, and anti-communism, like Tolak PKI, something like that. Yeah. And, we independent. So lots of musicians also, like, especially government forces, you guys have to compose this kind of music. So, we have to protect our country. I was a soldier for 2 years. And at the time I sang, my life is not mine. You have to be dead in the battlefield for the country. So they washed my brain with this kind of music. But at the time, if you listen, of course there are lots of another, like love song or the kind of things. However, there is some kind of this kind of characteristic with nationalism. And America, United States, is a very important country for Korea at the time because of the Korean War. They helped, so that's why we became a democratic country. And Lee said, the U.S. was perceived as the most liberal, prosperous, and advanced country in the world. People at that time considered like that. So, United States culture has a cultural power. The cultural power of the U.S. was very, very significant at the time. And so there were two types of huge genre in popular music. There is throat with Japanese and Western pop genre. The Western pop genre, of course, it has been developed in the military base, U.S. military base in Korea. Next. So in the U.S. military base, there are lots of Koreans also perform like that. So there is no Korean music. However, they play the jazz, something like that. Next. You can see the photos. Yeah. It is also the US before. Okay, so this one is old version of my PPT. Maybe I will show you. The throat singers, they are very famous, you can see. So the imagination is very, very, oh, yeah, okay, good. Thank you so much. Different with K-pop boys, right? It's more masculine, something macho, or something like that. And they put pomade like Elvis Presley, and the left guy Namjin, he wear like military uniforms, because at that time the boy band, something artist is like powerful guy is a soldier at the time. So he wear like military uniform and performed the throat, something like that. And people loved it. But at that time, the fans were not like teenager right now, not like right now. However, like, people love them. However, they just listen through the radio or, television. I like this guy or something like that. There was no mass movement of fans like now. Next. Before. No, before. Sebelum. Yeah, okay, thanks. So, and then military dictatorship. So there are Park Chung-hee or Chun Doo-han, the president who took for a long time their position, like Suharto, very similar. And there were resistance movement by university students. There were demo, right? Di Malioboro kemarin. Ya, sama. Mahasiswa, wah, nggak absen. Demo dulu. Ya, peduli negara dulu, baru ya, kuliah. Something like that. Same paradigm at the time. So the Western folk song, with acoustic guitar, they sing a song with something social critic lyric. Of course, there are love songs or something like that. However, it is a very characteristic at the time. And group sound, rock and roll had been developed in the campus, and ballad and dance music, all from US. Korean people at the time really copied Western popular music with Korean lyric, or sang the original lyrics also. Next. No, oh yeah.
3 minutes remaining.
3 minutes, okay.
Yeah.
So the rapid industrialization and openness has led to various social and cultural changes. So people start to consume the popular culture, buy ticket, or go to concert hall, or something like that. And there has been a shift of collectivism to individualism and selfish tendencies. Next. And this guy, Seotaeji, is very, very important guy in K-pop history. Next, yeah. So he brought lots of genre, dance music, collaboration with traditional Korean music, and gangster rap, punk, rock, heavy metal, lots of experiment in the K-pop scene. And there was because of this guy, and transformation of the image of masculinity. He has very cute face, very feminine face. Before, we saw the two guys, two very macho guys. And beginning of fandom, the teenagers, they become a main subject who consume the popular music. And they made the fan groups it is there is no more forced by parents. It is more opened. So the people who love Sateji, they be together and worship Sateji like now. And censorship from the Japanese colonial also disappeared because of the fan resistance with this kind of system. So Sateji more freely made compose the music. Next. This is Sateji. So different image. He got lots of fans. So this is kind of a beginning of the image of K-pop. Next. An entertainment company, more HOT. It is popular music scene has been more industrialized. So next. So very early boy band in Korea. Next. Okay. Next, maybe. Yeah, K-pop, Korean, neutral. There are lots of genres. Next. Okay, this is a very old PPT. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so historical context and paradigm shift. K-pop didn't emerge spontaneously, but evolved under the influence of a power dynamic, historical context, and other factors. Next. Okay, so Korean wave in Indonesia. Before the Korean wave, there were Indian wave of Hong Kong, Japan, but now it's a Korean paradigm. It has never, Korean is suddenly not happened, but before there was Japanese popular culture, Indian popular culture. And because of the CD or illegal DVD, they are sold in Pasar Malam, and people easily can watch or listen to Korean music. Next. Next. Yeah, we just skip because we don't have time, but it is almost done. And so in the Pasar Malam, what we bought was like, what they sold was like boy band or Super Junior CD or something like that. So there are however, they didn't sell some another more rock musicians album or something like that, because Indonesian fans, they prefer this kind of music. So merchandisers also sell boy band music also, girl band. Next. Now, NTC, like Sateji, right? It's different with the throat singers. Next. In Indonesia, K-pop, cover dance. K-pop, there are lots of genres, however, cover dance. So it is connected with boy band, girl band image. Next. And next, the Indonesians, they love do this. Next. Yeah, they are professional cover dance group by Indonesians. So 3 more slides, almost done. So image consumption. So Korean celebrities with a traditionally masculine image are not well known. Like, as I said, other K-pop stars. I know, but not lots of Indonesian people know. And white skin, well-groomed appearance. So, the men's with lots of skincare and makeup. However, Indonesian guys, they say, oh, they are gay or something like that. I heard a lot about that. But the fans, they prefer this kind of imagination. So there is a conflict, there is a gender conflict right now in Indonesia with this kind of K-pop. Also, the seniman artist also, because of popular, people love K-pop. Why? Why they have to love our traditional music? Why they love K-pop? And I always ask, why don't you collaborate your Karawitan with K-pop? People maybe love it. and they consume a complex combination of image, music, manners, etc. So this is the media image. Because of the development of the new media and mass media and YouTube, social media, so people consume the imagination. And now the problem of the simulacra. So people consume the hyperreality presented through new media. In this ecosystem of a hyperreality, all aspects of cultural life, music, images, symbols, blah, 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 and more occur. In other words, the science represented within the media constructed image of a Hallyu Korean wave in Indonesia dominate Indonesians who then consume them as commodities. As a result, the simulacra creates a hyper-reality that is more real Korean than the reality in itself. So today we discussed how the most representative example of a hyperreality, as identified by Baudrillard, can be found in the Indonesian Hallyu Korean wave, and why it is driven by science through representation. While K-pop is indeed consumed in Indonesia through live performances, these are not frequent when considering the price, high price or frequency. So therefore, the space where K-pop consumption primarily occurs is within the hyper-reality of social media. So the emergence of media culture and fandom is a significant postmodern phenomenon that has altered the concept of live performances through hyperreality. Particularly, social media has expanded the existing concept of performances by presenting a new form of culture, breaking away from the spatial constraint and formalities that traditional performance once had. Okay, next, last page. So K-pop is a hybrid genre formed through historical discourse, not just the boy band right now. And it is also hybrid by, the Japanese or Korean or Western popular music. It is very hybrid. And transformation of a music genre and masculine or feminine images. So why Koreans are very looks like gay? Always ask me why Koreans are so gay. What do you mean so gay? You guys make up plastic surgery. I didn't get the makeup or plastic surgery. Only put some sunscreen. Sunscreen is also gay, something like that. Yeah, and K-pop phenomenon. So it is the problem is discourse. How these discourses has been changed, transformed. The K-pop phenomenon in Indonesia, the development of the new media is Japan, India. Oh, of course, there were the old media also. However, 2009, 8, the social media started to develop, and there is just some kind of crush with the K-pop phenomena too. So Indonesian K-pop, a representation formed by media. So today, finally, with these discourses, I explained, presented with the hyper-reality, the images from the social media. We believe this is the real, even though we have never been to Korea, but they are, this is the Korean music, something like that. So it is a pretty interesting topic in my experience in Indonesia, because we consider this naturally. There is a naturalization. However, it is not natural actually. It is connected with historical discourses and phenomena. Thank you very much.
I think it's somehow still correlated with what Professor Renew is speaking about, that is the technology do something. It's a subjectivity here, and K-pop is one of the effects. how Korean wave in Indonesia really developed very, very hugely. Okay, next speaker. Please welcome Kishi Misaki, Miss Kishi Misaki. Yeah, please give a warm of applause.
Good morning, everyone. PowerPoint. Okay. And next slide, please. I'm Misaki Kishi, PhD student from Japan, and studying ethnomusicology. Next slide, please. I'm especially interested in the figure of the shadow puppeteer or Daran. So now I'm studying wayang kulit. Next slide, please. First, an outline of my studies provided. Most successful Daran are traditionally assumed to be male and born into families who have passed down their arts for generations. However, this characterization is outdated. This is because with the establishment of Institute of Arts and development of the media, anyone can learn the practical skills of Daran regardless of their ancestry, and some have become famous. Furthermore, in the first few years, female Daran, who are considered difficult to be active, have become more prominent. Thus, it can be considered that today's Daran are becoming more diverse. Next. I'm currently attempting to construct a new theory of Daran by examining cases of female Daran and presenting diverse forms of Daran. So, these female Daran are the focus of my dissertation. Today, I focus on case study Ni Elisha Oltarus Alaso. Next. First, some background information helpful to presentation is provided. I'm focusing on wayang kulit or shadow puppet theater, specifically the Surakarta and Yogyakarta styles. In Java, performances can last all night, up to 6 hours, and may be ritualistic or secular, part of exorcist ritual, a wedding, commemorating a national holiday, and so on. Next. When performances typically include two interludes, Limbuan and Golo-Golo, which are purely entertainment and unrelated to the main storyline. During this segment, the Daran may joke with the sinden, female singers, and guest performance, including other singers and comedians. Next. I'm interested in the Daran because they play many roles simultaneously. First, they manipulate all of the puppet. Second, they narrate the story. They also direct musical arrangements before and during the performance. Next. The practice of Daran was conventionally transmitted orally by the member of the artist's family, and Daran's genealogy has been considered and important. According to Dutch cultural anthropologist Clara van Groenendael, only Daran from the artist's family can play luatan, an exorcist ritual. They are called Daran luat, and maybe refer to us or refer to themselves as Tulu Dalan or Dalan Tulen. In her study, she does not consider female Dalan Tulu Dalan. Next. The issue with previous Dalan studies is their focus on male Dalan, while most Dalan are still men from artist families. My research shows that this characterization is becoming outdated in modern Java. This is because, despite the increasing number of socially influential female Dalans in recent years, their achievements have often been overlooked. Next. Influential female Dalan today include, this is Nikne Asmorwati. She is the first female Dalan to be appointed head of the Dalan department at the Surakarta in 2022. Next slide, please. This is Ni Elisha Ortaros Alaso, today's topic of presentation. She is from a non-artist family, but has gained popularity in live streaming on YouTube, which has flourished since the 2020 COVID-19 pandemic. Next slide, please. This video streamed in November last year received an astonishing 1,120,000 views. Next. Studies on female Dalan have been limited, but interest has grown since the 2010s, particularly in cultural anthropology and gender studies. Previous research highlights that patriarchal values and gender-specific values, such as career interruption due to childbirth and challenge of producing a low voice, make it difficult for female Dalan to perform. Additionally, their opportunities are often restricted to women-related events like Mother's Day or Karatini Day. Previous studies are often restricted to previous studies also indicated that female Dalan often perform stories with female protagonists and advocate for women's rights, addressing issues typically overlooked by male Dalan. Some studies suggest that such direction leads to the emancipation for women. However, previous studies have not thoroughly analyzed staging performance techniques used in the productions. Next. I attempt to examine the recent success of female Dalan from the perspective of their performances. I attempted to examine the recent success of female Dalan from the perspective of their performances. In this presentation, I will explore how Ni Elisha's career as Dalan developed, along with the new unique aspects of her performance and directions. Aim of this presentation is present the following 4 points. 1. Influence of online fan communities on recent YM performances. 2. Growing performance opportunities for female Dalan. 3. Sponsors' expectation for performance featuring female protagonists. 4. Change in performance production system, particularly the growing role division of Dalan. These are my research methods. I'm conducting field work based on Surakarta and Yogyakarta. Moreover, not only conducting interviews, I often participate performance of Wayan as a Gundar player. Next slide, please. Moving on, the result of the study. To begin, a detailed profile of Ni Elisha is provided. Born in 1993 and now 31 years old, she is primarily known as a Sinden female singer and often appears as a famous guest star in Wayan interludes. Although she was born and raised in Java, audiences recognize her as a Sinden Sulawesi or Sinden from outside of Java because she intentionally speaks Javanese with a unique intonation in performances. As detailed later, Sinden Sulawesi is a persona she created specifically for her performances. Next slide, please. Her parents are not artists, but her interest in theater and her desire to study Wayan led her to enroll in the Dalan department at ISI Yogyakarta, where she first learned and practical skills of Dalan and Sinden. She aspires to career as a researcher as well as an artist and is currently a doctoral student in Yogyakarta, studying a phenomenon of Sinden in recent Wayan performances. She is, therefore, regarded by her audience as an intelligent woman. Next. Here, I describe how she became a Dalan. First, the most important point of her career is her encounter with the superstar Dalan Kiseno Nugraho. The late Kiseno was born in 1972 as the son of Kis Palman, a famous Dalan in Yogyakarta. He developed his style of Bagon, a clown character, considered the audience enjoyment and his top priority. He get a big number of fans. He died suddenly of a heart attack in November 2020 at the height of his popularity. Ni Elisha wrote her graduation thesis about the Kiseno. In the course of her interview, Kiseno invited her to join the gamelan group that accompanied him, Walgolalas, 2015. Kiseno also developed his style of interlude. He made each Sinden stand out with jokes like a talk show. In the process of interaction with Kiseno during performances, Ni Elisha's distinctive persona, Sinden Sulawesi, was created. This led to her explosive popularity in 2019 and beyond. Next slide, please.
2 minutes remaining.
Okay. One of Kiseno's unique traits was his early connection with fans on the internet ahead of the other Dalan. His fan community, PWKOS, was established on Facebook 2013, strengthening their unity and presence. Kiseno's fan was notably enthusiastic and prominent in his performances. He was also an early adopter of YouTube live streaming, starting in 2016 at the request of a fan. Kiseno's death, 2020. According to Ni Elisha, it was then that her career as a Dalan began, as she and other members of Walgolalas, Kiseno's musicians, took over his work as Dalan. Ni Elisha's performance have the following characteristics. They are based on Yogyakarta style and greatly influenced by Kiseno's performance styles. This is due to her learning Dalan techniques at ISI Yogyakarta and gaining experience as a Sinden in a Kiseno's group, which follows the Yogyakarta styles. Ni Elisha performances are also heavily influenced by Kiseno's styles, especially in terms of importance of entertaining the audience. According to Ni Elisha, Kiseno was always attentive to the mood of the audience during the performance to keep them engaged, and was skilled at telling jokes at an appropriate time. Even today, in her performance as a Dalan or Sinden, she prioritized entertaining the audience and is always conscious of keeping audience attention. Next slide, please. From here, I will now explain how the performance is carried out and system used to create and performance direction. Performances by Ni Elisha follow the process outlined below. There are two important aspects of her performances. One is that many performances are supported by fans. Ni Elisha also now have several fan clubs. This is screenshot of PIOR, Penggemar Elisha Orzalis Alaso. She often performed while with support of her fan clubs. Out of 24 performances since 2020, 8 have been supported by fans. This shows that in the modern era of live streaming and social media, fans forming stronger connections regardless of the location. This new phenomenon significantly impacts activity of talent. Next. Second, the variety of performance opportunities is also significant. While previous studies have often linked female talent performances to women-related events like Mother's Day, her performances span a wider range of occasions. This includes church anniversaries, personal birthdays, weddings, the end of Ramadan, and village festivals, similar to those for male talents. This shows that opportunity for female talent are expanding. Next. Okay. As for the story of her performance, nearly half of her performance repertoire consists of pieces where women are the protagonists. Each performance is usually requested by the sponsor, depending on the context which is performed. This indicated that most of the audience expected her to the lakon stories with female protagonists. Next. During my interview, I learned Megdalan Ki Gutter Pramuji Widodo has made scripts and musical direction for most of her performances as a Dalan. Ki Gutter is Dalan from Yogyakarta, born in 1973, a close friend of the late Kiseno, and a gundar player for Walgolalas. He usually plays a gundar, an important gamelan instrument, when Ni Elisha performed as a Dalan. According to Ki Gutter, he prepares the script 3 to 14 days before the performance. The script includes the entire narrative except for the interlude, description of puppet manipulation, Dalan songs, suluk, and other rough musical directions. It is important to note that Ki Gutter has created a script for her with the same orthodox direction that performed by men. This support from Ki Gutter is considered important for Ni Elisha, who is less familiar with the special register of Japanese language used in Wayan. She mentioned that as a long-term goal, she would like to write her own script for a performance featuring female protagonists. Next. After Ni Elisha received the script from Ki Gutter, slide berikutnya. After Ni Elisha received the script from Kikutu, she read the text, the content of it. Then, a few days before the show, she rehearsed at home using a puppet to take the puppet manipulation. According to Ni Elisha, she added her own humorous line, which she learned from Kiseno, to the script Kikutu created. This is one of the few features of her performance direction. Finally, on the day of the performance, Kikutu decided on the detail of music direction just before the performance. Next. Here we can see how there is a new division of labor in the role of Dalan, whereas in the past, the Dalan would direct all aspects of the performance. There are now cases where others besides the Dalan are in the charge of script writing and musical composition. Traditionally, Ryan performances were improvisational based on stand patterns developed at the Dalan Training School in the Royal Palace of Surakarta and Yogyakarta. This pattern includes scene-structured puppet manipulation, music for each scene, and Dalan cues for requesting specific music. It was assumed that both the Dalan performers knew the pattern, allowing the Dalan to proceed with the performance improvisationally without prior arrangements. In this system, Dalan is in charge of all aspects of the performance. In addition, Kira stated that if a Dalan used text of performance slavishly, he would be dismissed contemporarily as a neophyte and a Dalan with notes. This suggests the traditional style of performance emphasized improvisation rather than being bound up by a script. The case of Ni Elisha and Kikutu divides the role of Dalan, which traditionally was performed solely by Dalan. Additionally, much of direction is predetermined to some extent, unlike the traditional system. In my research, I found that many of today's famous talents, both male and female, hire music arrangers to direct the music. Additionally, more talents are now writing and preparing script for key scenes in advance. This trend is not unique to Ni Elisha. It is evident across current Dalan performances. The division of labor in staging is increasing, and the system is shifting towards more predetermined direction rather than relying solely on improvisation. Here, I suggest that the division of labor in the role of Dalan lowers the barrier for women to act as a Dalan. Next. Let us now conclude. Fan communities on the internet had a significant impact on Wayan in recent years. The opportunity for performance by Ni Elisha are not limited to events related to women. She performs various opportunities as well as her male counterparts. Indeed, Ni Elisha alters Ala's performances suggest a growing range of opportunity and role for women in this traditional male-dominant field. Many of the sponsors ask her to perform the lakon with a woman as the main characters. The audience expects female Dalan to perform with women as the main characters. The system for Wayan performance is changing. Many of today's famous Dalan are dividing the labor of Dalan, involved in the direction of the music and script of the performances. In Elisha's case, the division of labor can also lead to lowering of the barriers for women Dalan to act as a Dalan. Okay. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Ms. Misaki, and her research about female Dalang. And yeah, And the last speaker, let's give it up for Ibu Harmilianti Sulistiani, PhD. She will be speaking about a significant aspect in the dynamic world of design and architecture. Monggo, Bu.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Okay, I'll try. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm Harmil from Institut Seni Indonesia Surakarta. And first of all, I apologize for my late attendance because suddenly I should join an activity in a campus one. Fortunately, I can catch up and be here. This morning, I would like to discuss about crossing cultural borders, a significant aspect in the dynamic world of design and architecture. Maybe a bit different from the previous speakers who focusing on art. My presentation will talk about the culture artifact, which is architecture. I have 2 points. First, the relation between cross-culture and architecture, and the second, the case study of cross-culture in architecture. Next, please, the slide. Yeah, okay. Moving to the first, as we know, culture is human creation in a system of ideas, action, and work of art. As a result of human creation, culture cannot be separated from the many aspects brought by individuals, such as experiences, belief, value, and collective practices in a society or the historical context. Human interaction encourages the exchange of goods, technology, and ideas, thus encouraging the presence of cultural interaction in local and global contexts that emerge in the space and time of a society. Next, please. Architecture can be considered as an artifact indicating a cultural product. Architecture, as a reflection of cultural value, is shaped by various cultural construction, which resulting in configuration that meet human comfort and lifestyle within a broader cultural landscape. The dynamic process of crossing cultures, including acculturation and syncretism, leads to a mixed pattern of architectural form and will present changes in architectural tradition. Globalization, urban development, and the preservation of cultural heritage influence the changes. Crossing culture and globalization produce transcultural architecture. In architecture, crossing culture emphasizes a multicultural approach for spatial and social harmony to achieve architectural identity. Architecture can show how closely the identity of a city is demonstrated by its architecture, both from the present and the past. Many aspects of the interaction process between trade, economy, disaster management, power, education, and modernity cause transcultural architecture. And I would like to move into the second. Next, please. Yeah. For the case study, manufacture influenced the visual expression of transcultural architecture. An important aspect in transcultural architecture is balancing central and peripheral elements. An example of this is the pendopo of Pura Mangkunegaran. as we can see in the slide, the spatial concept of the pendopo is Japanese architecture. However, during the reign of Mangkunagara IV, around 1875, the canopy area for welcoming guests, called Bangsal Tosan or Tosan Ward, adopted the European architecture style, regarded as the modern face of Mangkunagaran. It is an iron-based structure built next to a wood-based pendopo building. Moreover, the lamps, floor materials, and lion statues in the pendopo use material imported from Europe with installation technique that did not follow the Javanese architectural rules. Mangkunagara IV created a new shared culture that transcends the boundary of his community culture without imposing universalism. A critical attitude toward the local context to show local identity by carving the Mangkunagara symbol on the top of the tympanum of the Bangsal Tosan. In this case, we can see transcultural architecture is related to agency politics because it involves the power of the ruler. The power that overshadow influence the resulting transcultural architectural visual expression. Next, please. Cross-cultural architecture refers to shared cultural elements that transcend national or ethnic boundaries, often resulting from interaction and exchange between different cultures. And the example is the Indonesia mosque built in Chinese architecture, which the appearance is similar to the Kelenteng, a Confucianism temple. Next, please. The cross-culture in the Chinese-style mosque building demonstrate an effort to recognize and preserve cultural assets that reflects various influences, contributing to social cohesion and a sense of belonging in diverse community. Next, please. Yeah. The role of the community in transcultural architecture is crucial as it ensures that the architectural project is responsive to the needs, identities, and cultural context of the local community. Next, please. Engaging with the community allows the architect to understand the narrative and value of the particular culture that shape the environment, leading to a design that resonates with its inhabited. With community engagement, transcultural architecture can create spaces that blend diverse cultural influence while remaining rooted in local tradition and practices. The Teletubbies village, we can see in this slide, can explain the cross-culture from due to disaster without engaging the community. The Yogyakarta earthquake on May 2006 shocked the village of Ngelepen, Prambanan, Yogyakarta. Because the village area was no longer permitted to be built, the new village was built in a new location with the help of the Dome for the World Foundation. In Japanese culture, there is an interesting behavior related to assisting. Japanese people, specifically Japanese ethnic groups in Central Java and Yogyakarta, embrace the culture of ewuh pekewuh, which means when there is a difficulty and someone assists, Japanese will accept whatever it is because it is taboo to bargain for the form or assistance. The Ngelepen villagers receive the dome houses even though they experience many difficulty to settling down inside the dome. In the rainy day, there was a leaking because the ventilation was not protected. The kitchen was designed to use a gas stove. Although in 2008, the villagers did not familiar with gas stove. Even though the livelihood of the Ngelepan resident is farming and raising livestock, the dome was not designed to raise livestock. And right now we can see that as a globalization accelerates, New Ngelepan village has become a tourist destination. The houses are painted colorfully, and the main attraction for the tourists is the dome house. Next, please. Cross-culture can be in a form of imitation and replica. It is not new because imitation and copying were integral to architectural design and production. Japanese temple inspired the Dutch pavilion in the World International Exhibition 1900 in Paris. Next, please. Today, Asian city reconstructed the architecture of European city, designed with local condition in mind or imitated in Asian city with different situation. In China, a 108-meter replica of Eiffel Tower was built in the Yangtze River Delta. Japan produced Western-style buildings such as Houston Boss, a full-scale replica of Dutch building in Nagasaki in 1992. The role of patronage in cross-cultural architecture influenced the design and implementation of architectural projects. Next, please. Patronage can provide architects with the resources. However, can also have limitation as patronage may have certain expectations or preferences that can lead to form of cultural imperialism or the dilution of local identities. Indonesia, Cambodia, Singapore, Egypt, the United Arab Emirates, and other developing countries also experimented with Western architectural and structural paradigm to build their own themed residential area. The complexity of understanding aesthetic across cultural boundaries involves recognizing unique cultural expression and questioning hierarchy that may arise from applying Western standard to non-art form. And for the conclusion, next please. In the history of human civilization, design is a tangible culture that can be interpreted as a meaningful social text. Through design, observers can observe the concept of thinking of each civilization, including political policies, culture, level of technology, and economic concept. Crossing cultural borders in architecture is a design phenomenon in a specific period. Many factors drive the occurrence of acculturation. It is necessary to redefine architecture that respects cultural differences, emphasizing the need for culturally sustainable practices, harmonizing with local values and spatial behavior. In the process, the actor involved in the production of architecture engage with diverse cultural contexts, while balancing local identity with global influence. Local community engagement is essential to understanding their needs, value, and cultural narrative, ensuring that the design resonates with its inhabitants and reflect their identity. Thank you. I'm looking forward to discuss with all of you.
Thank you, speakers, and that was enlightening presentations. So we know that cross-cultural borders can mean many things in arts and culture. And these 5 presenters that we have today in our conference, from music, from dance, and then pop culture, also local tradition and architecture, they are amazing. Yeah, now for the question and answer session, please, if Any of you have some questions? Yes, satu. Monggo, silakan Mas. Please introduce yourself and address your questions to which presenter?
Thank you very much for this opportunity. My name is Kota, and I come from Maluku, from east of Indonesia. And this is kind of interesting for me because the most interesting is about K-pop and how technology become a part of its spread of the information and also for the popular culture itself. In 2023, I have a chance to get my paper in Institute of Art in Jakarta, and I make about compatibility and comprehensive about how Maluku have a big what I call it big exposure from hip hop culture, and why K-pop cannot become part of our resistance in our past conflict. The main idea of what I'm trying to say with my recently paper is I want to tell that the determination culture is also happening in our process in our post-conflict in Maluku itself. So why the K-pop cannot be part of our movement and or our popular culture? It's become something interesting because if we can compare how West and East Indonesia have influence in K-pop itself, it becomes so different in exposure. So maybe it's kind of related with Mr. Rene presentation about post-human. So my question is, human have a willingness to choose what they have, and in this case of my research, in the middle of conflict, we choose to become what we want to be and what art that we want to use. Indeed, we choose music itself because our determination culture that I said before is so close with us. But why we don't want to choose K-pop become a part of our of culture? It's something that technology can reach also. So as long as I know that, like Carl Jung said, what we become today is what we choose. So if the relation become the technology and our community, our human community, and local community, they already explained what Carl Jung said, right? They choose what they want to become. And K-pop is, sorry to say, the problem, the problem is also the psychology of political identity also. What you want to choose and what you want to become. Like you want to become so masculine or so feminist, I think it's not part of the center. But the part of the center of this case is how the art, music, can become part of ideology or the condition, the resistance of that community. So that's my question. Thank you.
Yeah. Dari Universitas mana, Mas?
Saya dari ISI Yogyakarta.
ISI Yogyakarta. Okay, thank you. Mas Kota, ya, dari Maluku. Yeah, maybe Dr. Chung or Prof. Rene?
Maybe I'll start.
Okay.
Okay, hello. Okay, I'll start. Firstly, bear in mind that popular culture is urban-based. You don't really see emergence of popular culture in rural areas, so it's urban-based. Now, when we talk about K-pop, we're really talking about it emerging in Jakarta. It didn't emerge in Yogyakarta, it didn't emerge in Solo, it really emerged in Jakarta, yeah, maybe Surakarta, or just Surakarta, yeah. It's popular culture is an urban phenomenon, and it's an urban phenomenon because you have classes, varying classes and cultures coming together. Now, it's not a coincidence that K-pop started in Jakarta because Jakarta is a center of a large community of Koreans. So that in itself already played a major role. You got to look at the larger picture. Now, when you get into technology, I think I bored you enough with my discussion of post-human and technology. But technology certainly played a role. The fact that the existence of the internet, of sort of more faster international communications played a major role as well, I would think, with K-pop. People have access. I'm a naturalized American. I came to America when I was 2 years old, and I still have memories of when I was a small child when we would try to communicate with relatives in Europe. I had a lot of relatives in Germany and Russia and various parts of Europe. And coming to America for us was basically like being exiled from wherever you came from. There was very little communication because there was no means of it. There were phone calls which you could make once a year, which were really sketchy, is the English idiom for it. It was not likely you would be able to talk for long. It was very expensive and very hard to understand people. So it was, when you left your country, you were basically exiling yourself. So that's very different than today. You could speak in real time. I'm sure you've all done it with relatives and friends who may be on the other side of the world, and you can communicate in real time. At most, there's a latency lapse of maybe, a half a second or a second at most. So it's a very real, different kind of world we live in now than it was even 20, 25 years ago. So with K-pop, it also plays a major role of why K-pop works so well in Indonesia now. And I'm sure you might have more to add to that. So I'll let go.
Thank you very much. Have you ever presented in IKJ, the K-pop in Indonesia? Have you ever presented? Yeah, I made that seminar at the time. Yeah, I listened to your presentation too at the time. But when you asked, there is a Maluku, the K-pop scene in Maluku. I searched when you asked, and I saw lots of pictures of the K-pop cover dance group in the Maluku, and mostly they are female, the girls. They made the kind of a community. So I think what you said, the Maluku people, they choose hip hop, then K-pop. There is some kind of wrong data, I think, because I already saw. And they are mostly girls also. What I saw on the internet, the pictures about the K-pop dance group in Maluku were fans. So during my presentation, as I mentioned, the gender conflict, it is a very, very current issue in Indonesia with K-pop, in the K-pop scene. So I want to ask about reflect your insight. Is it you? Did you really see the K-pop scene in Maluku? Well, what I saw is the girls. Yeah, maybe the men. They choose the hip hop. Maybe different with metal in Jogja or rock and roll in Bali or something like that. So I think the phenomena K-pop is also it has been developed with the media scene. You guys also use the Instagram or TikTok things. There is just some kind of we are using this social media, the new technology, and we interact, as the professor said. So first of all, I cannot agree the Maluku people, they do not choose K-pop things. Maybe we have to consider about the gender conflict. So men choose hip-hop, maybe girls, especially the teenagers, choose K-pop. So I think there is a power, there is a resistance also. So there is a, like I got lots of questions about this kind of things, especially at EC. The artist asked, they always classify with Indonesian traditional music and K-pop, because why the people citizenship, Indonesian citizenship, do not choose Karawitan then K-pop. So it is also, we have to reflect. We have to reflect ourselves. We need self reflection about this kind of question. Do we really see this kind of K-pop conflict or phenomena in general, social phenomena, or like what we see, that what we want to see? That's what I want to answer about your question. Thank you.
There is a preference in it. Yeah, we can have a preference, or maybe there are preference based on the gender, based on the age range, and these things need to be investigated more. Okay, bagaimana Mas Kota? Ada tanggapan lagi?
Okay, what a coincidence. I think, I think we are almost in time for our lunch, so it is going to be short. Sir, Mr. Chung, I think we can talk about this after this. Because but in my research that I have been made for 2 years about K-pop and hip-hop community, there is big segregation with the gender issue also. What that you say that to me, but the things that why I said to you when we was in Jakarta, that what I want to say that the big issue about K-pop itself, it's not about the psychology of our community. But the big issue about K-pop itself is about how we use music as a resistance. So the community thinks the K-pop or K-pop music, kinda not relate also, or maybe not relate also with the music. But like how the hip hop and how hip hop music and its story itself, they're trying to out and become part of our resistance upward action. But we can talk about it also.
Yeah, thank you for the information. There is some kind of resistance movement about the K-pop. With hip hop or other genre is also interesting, and I also enjoy it. But I answer something like that because you asked why Maluku people choose hip hop then K-pop. So maybe you know than me about that. That kind of phenomena and movement in Maluku. However, if you ask about this kind of question, I can only answer about the gender issue that is really happening in Indonesia right now, and we can talk. We can consider about these kind of things. So that's why I answer about more in generally. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please give a round of applause once again for our speakers today. And actually, it's getting fun. The discussions have more perspectives, and we can extend the discussion outside the session, because nowadays we have to end up the session, and it's time for closing statement, I guess. Yeah, please, each plenary speaker give closing statement related to cross-border
cross-culture borders.
Oh, well, thank you all for listening this morning. Just, I think, being here in itself, listening to the co-presenters, hearing the question. You know, I'm a professor in a big dance department. We actually have K-pop and hip-hop, and we call it street dance in Australia. So I think the indigenizing of global traditions and practices of dance is something that's very much on the agenda for dance studies as a field. And we actually have a Korean person teaching K-pop, and it's very popular. But we also teach Western contemporary dance. We teach indigenous dance. We teach ballet. We teach partnering, capoeira. So the transnational cross-cultural encounter through dance is something that we are really attending to. The challenge is, how do we do it in a way that is meaningful, that is not tokenistic, that is embedded with an understanding of the culture and context through which dance practices come, that respects their autonomy and respects the sovereign rights of the indigenous people of the lands where we teach to also continuously practice their culture of more than 60,000 years. So that's the environment that we're working in Australia in the arts education at the moment, this deep complexity, but the requirement, as Jackie Shepherd said, for deep listening as well. So thank you all for listening this morning. Have a good lunch.
Okay, for the closing statement. As knowledge and technology expands, so integrating sustainability and also community engagement and respect for cultural heritage will be critical, yeah, and in shaping the future of the built environment. So I will highlight the built environment because I think all these speakers also talk about it, and also about the agency politics and also the dynamic power in a built environment. Yeah, thank you.
Well, I talked a lot before, so about a lot of abstract kind of issues, so I don't want to get too much into it, but maybe one thing I would encourage those of you who are sort of pursuing these kind of intellectual questions would be to look at borders not just in terms of region, within a nation or across nations or across large regions of the world, but also within more localized conditions. For example, borders, so-called borders between popular and traditional and folk or art cultures, how these are now being transgressed with a lot of contemporary works in dance and music. Also borders between, not only between musicians and their musical instruments, but also relationships between performers and audiences, how that is transgressed in both contemporary and traditional culture. Years ago when I was in Banyumas, I watched an ebeg performance. If you don't know what ebeg is, it's like kuda lumping, and it started very sort of with a bunch of people massing around, sort of coming together, and then they began to perform an iron gamelan, and some particular people from this troupe began dancing, and then they went into trance, and then they began to rip off the skin of coconuts and eat various kinds of plants, and some even ate glass light bulbs and stuff, and they did all sorts of crazy things. And then they began to run around, and the audience got scared. And it turned into this huge sort of like, I don't know, sort of almost like a riot. People got so upset and everything and scared, and began, because of these trancers, began to run around. And then the thing ended. People just sort of dispersed and went home. And it sort of flies in the face of what we all understand as performance, because there was no clear opening, there was no clear ending. There was no obvious stage because it was all in a dirt sort of field, where nothing was clearly a stage. And so there are all these sort of rules that we sort of take for granted about what performance means. There was also no structure in the whole performance. So there was like all the rules of what performance is kind of broken down. But they had microphones and a sound system. They had a gamelan. It was an iron gamelan, but they still had a gamelan. So they had all this technology there, but all those other things that we take for granted in performance were just not there. And this was a rural sort of folk tradition. And so the question is why? And I think that's what's important, is that we begin to explore those things as intellectuals, as artists, as composers, as choreographers. We think about those things. Why are we sort of bound by certain rules of performance and certain rules of what constitutes music or what constitutes dance? And I know contemporary artists are sort of exploring that, but I think we also, as intellectuals, as researchers, we need to sort of ask ourselves why these things are happening. So that's my closing statement. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Actually, my base is Korean traditional music, but because my identity is considered as a Korean, so lots of questions about the K-pop things. So I cannot escape because of this kind of identity. It is also very interesting myself in the experiences in Indonesia. So in Korea, also there are classification as a Korean traditional music and popular music. But since when? And since when the concept of art or artistic music in Korea? Was there art in Joseon Dynasty? No, there is a different concept. We call it 악, which is based on the Confucianism. However, now we are considered, traditional music is categorized in something more artistic things. And in the popular music scene, it seems Korean people feel too much with K-pop, so we want to listen traditional music. So there are lots of traditional vocal musicians appear in television right now. So there is the cross-culture borders are constructed and also disappeared. It is very dynamic, even though it is in Korea. And furthermore, there is between the cross-culture border between Korea and Indonesia, there is some kind of what I feel during my studies in Indonesia for 13 years. It seems some people see art in more prejudice perspective. Like, rendang is my traditional food for the Sumatra people, so I will just eat only rendang, no Korean food, because it is neo-colonization, it is a new colonization. So we have to love nasi padang, tolak, nasi Korea. We have to taste all. And why it has happened in historically, or why fans, why citizenship, they choose K-pop. I think there is a clue how we also developed some karawitan, or what Korean people love. And when we perform in Korea, maybe we try to do something different. It can be also new composition or something like that. Why only focus on the nasi goreng, babi guling, and nasi padang or something like that? We eat everything. We wear whatever we want to wear. However, in art in art field, there are lots of prejudice and discrimination. What I felt. Hopefully, I'm still considering about this kind of things. Throughout these amazing presentations, it was very critical in each presentation. Hopefully we have a time to consider and critique ourselves and our scene. Thank you very much.
Thank you for great opportunity to I'm studying about female talent, and in previous studies, they thought to be difficult to active, but I think the situation is changing. Then now we have to think about stereotypes of gender issues in Indonesia, and I think female talent is also trying to cross the border because they are trying to challenge the gender barriers. So if you have any suggestions about my studies, please talk to me after this session. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Talking about arts and culture is always interesting, and in front of me, I believe all of you are art and culture enthusiasts. So by having borders, we also know that identity also exists. So it's better to embrace the society, embrace the community in this changing world. We know this world is changing, and through educating and researching more about arts and culture, I hope, and we all hope, that this world is going to be a better place. Thank you very much for coming and attending this session. Thank you, speakers, for these great presentations. Enjoy your lunch, and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.